Well, you kind of open this dialogue about the saturation, and well, for the last few months, I guess after the last retreat I went on, well, maybe a little ways after the last retreat, but one thing I've been working on is trying to develop that still mind more throughout the day, and and it has definitely increased. But I notice sometimes when you have like a still mind, or at least not the thoughts, because I don't know, there might be more to the mind, like, because there's the emotions and all
Mm.
that type of stuff, which you notice more maybe when you're, and also recognize what you're
Mm.
thinking. And, well, sometimes, like, during meditation or something, like, if you, like, have a still mind in relation to your thoughts, but then, what if, um, your mind isn't so still. Well, I don't know if it's your mind, but like if your emotions aren't in like that more joy or bliss or that type of thing,
Mm. Mm.
it's different. Is that? Well, I guess within like the second genre and stuff, I'm wondering if that's also components of it, or is it mostly the thoughts?
I think that's a really good question. Emotion is just an overall feeling. It's not a collection of thoughts, but emotion oftentimes colors our thinking or stimulates
Yeah,
thinking, right?
it definitely colors the direction that my thoughts will go,
Right.
depending upon what.
So I found with myself that I can certainly still my thinking, but still have an overall emotional aspect present uh, that may not be success. That wouldn't be defined as bliss or joy, right?
Yeah,
And certainly, how the suttas describe the 8 stages of samadhi is that there's definitely an ecstatic component to that description, and in fact, the 7 factors of enlightenment, piti is one of those factors, and piti is generally translated as bliss. It has some kind of ecstatic
yeah,
definition. Uh, so I would argue that we have to start somewhere, right? And so we're starting with, let's say, uh, a Western mind that's been trained in an academic sense, and we have all that TV programming that's in there, and we have our dysfunctional family system programmed in there, and to me, it's not impossible to still the mind whilst there's still a lot of baggage in there, right? And I think if we can keep stilling the mind, what I found is that slowly but surely that emotional baggage content that's in there starts to dissipate, but it
yeah,
doesn't dissipate immediately upon the stilling of the mind.
yeah. Because it can.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
I
sorry.
just said like sometimes it can, and you can notice it, or
Right.
I notice it for quite a while
Yeah.
sometimes.
What my experience with that very thing, in fact, it's happening right now. It, depending on the cycle I'm in, it'll be, the mind stills and there's the emotional content, and it might not be that heavy, it might not be that intense, and it is sort of just bleeding off. If I'm in a different part of my cycle, it can be quite explosive, and it can be quite, you surprise yourself how much stuff is in there, after you think you're working on stuff for years and years and years, and you discover there's this whole new layer, this whole new strata
Right.
down there, and the meditation exposes that,
Yeah,
the the stilling of the mind, especially because I think the mind, in a way, most people with that monkey mind, they spend their life avoiding all that,
yeah,
and the mind keeps you distracted and keeps you thinking things are important out there.
I know
Yeah.
definitely since I've started seriously meditating, I felt like a lot of just garbage has kind of gone away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You would never even get to it if you weren't meditating, you know.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The non-contemplative mind is constantly on the surface and never gets to the level of self-awareness to know whether they have emotional baggage or not.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you on that. And that by stilling our mind, well, it's not black and white, and it's not instantaneous. We're not
Yeah.
when we still our mind, we're not instantaneously healed. If anything, maybe we become self-aware enough to know, there's a whole bunch more underneath here.
I am truly fucked up.
Right.
Why did I start this?
I really am a mess.
I took that pill. Was it the blue pill?
Right, the blue pill, or in Alice in Wonderland, it was one side of the mushroom versus the other, or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, also thinking about jhana and the way that it progresses, like with pleasure and then tranquility and equanimity, and I forget exactly what the defining characteristics of the fourth one is, but it seems like it's more, or it gets more relaxed and stuff. And sometimes when I'm meditating, I don't feel like even if there's like still spaces in between the thoughts and it gets even wider. Sometimes I don't really feel it's the second like jhana because I don't necessarily have that sense of tranquility. I guess.
What? So you mean you're saying that your mind is still, but you don't feel tranquil?
Yeah,
I
sometimes.
get it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean,
Well, what do you think, Michael?
Well, that could be the what we were just talking about. There's some emotional agitation that's been exposed, in there's the stilling of the mind, but that agitation is still there.
yeah,
And I also think that the progression through the jhanas is not linear. That we can find ourselves with a piece of one jhana, but another part of us might be still back here somewhere, and that's why retreat is so wonderful, because you really immerse for a few days, and the idea is after a few days, 4 or 5 maybe, 3 maybe, who knows, it's always different. You finally get to that place where everything is just lined up.
Yeah.
And then you see, I see what he was talking about.
yeah.
It's like all the cars of the train have finally caught up to each other.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Which like this, well, I mean this particular meditation right here, I know I definitely felt a lot. Well, I felt more like I was actually in the second jhana when I was in the second jhana, and when I felt, I might have started to move into equanimity a little bit. So,
Well, yeah, actually, that brings up the question that equanimity to me is just a deeper level of tranquility, right, or a deeper level of the stilling of the mind, and it could be, let's say, maybe the third jhana, which is defined by equanimity, is where not only is the mind still, but the emotions have stilled as well.
Yeah. And then you start to feel that maybe a more pure, refined version of what do they call it, virya?
Virya,
Virya.
the energy.
And that starts to be the central, unavoidable focus that starts to expand things out.
I agree with you. I think virya really starts at the third jhana.
Yeah.
And I don't really notice a lot of energy until I've hit the third jhana. Then now I can feel that energy coursing through my body. And
To me, that's a sign that I'm in there. It's not just, there's my lower chakra. It's not that. It's everything.
right.
You're in that beam.
Right.
And it seems like you have to go through certain phases, like you were saying, the cars aren't lined up, and I experience it as waves, Okay, there we go, no. There we go, no.
Well,
And it can take a few days,
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah.
I agree with you about that waves you were talking about. I experienced that too, that I might I might, let's say, I'll sit down in meditation, and I'll feel the piti and joy, you know, first of this first jhana, let's say, and then the stilling of the mind comes, but then it goes away, comes, goes, comes, goes, comes, goes, and that's like in and out of the second jhana, and then finally after a while, then the second jhana is really nailed pretty good, and then I'm popping in and out of the third jhana, right? So it's these waves that get deeper and deeper, or larger and larger, whatever.
And that's where the longer sits come in. If you can do, because for me, usually in that last quarter hour before an hour, you know, from 45 to 60, that's when the release starts to take place, and the Taka Vikara drop away, and I'm not trying anymore, and you know, you feel like you've emerged into a clearing, and the waves get a little bit more, like you say, deeper and higher and deeper and higher. And if I can go another half hour, you know, this is in my regular daily practice, then I'll, you know, inevitably you get into that third, and it's like you're on autopilot at that point.
Right.
You know, you've harnessed that energy, or it's harnessed you.
Right.
Is a better way of putting it. And then if you're have a little more time on your hands, that'll become more refined, and you even start to lose track of the body, and you know, you're in that fourth expansive.
Right.
I could be here all for my whole life, please.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Right. It would be nice if you know. Right.
Yeah.
I would like to. Yeah.
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 But it takes a little more time to get there.